Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're really lucky today to be joined by a fantastic guest who's driven a long way to see us all the way from Baltimore, Rob Kennedy. Rob, great to have you in the show.
Welcome.
Thanks, Ian, Matt. Great to be here. Appreciate having me up.
It's something we've been super fortunate with the channel, that having a wider audience now. We are getting visitors from further afield. We've had visitors this summer from Hawaii, from England, from all parts of the US, and we're absolutely humbled by people traveling all that way, and really appreciate you coming up to see us.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Hopefully, I know people have been clamoring for lower swing speed guys, and that's me. That's why I'm here.
And we welcome it.
It's gonna be perfect.
We've been dying to get someone on the channel that has sort of a swing speed that's very relevant to the viewership and that type of thing. So we're going to see if that's the case. And your description of yourself already seems to be of the nature that people find massive value to the process, however it goes.
Good. Yeah.
Very cool. So, a bit of a self-proclaimed equipment junkie.
Yeah, I think as being part of the internet forums out there, definitely read a lot, and as a result, try a lot. I'm fortunate in my job. I work in the industry, so I have access to try pretty much anything at practically nothing. So it's I've done a lot of trying around, probably self-fitting. Probably not to the best specs as possible, but I love buying them, trying them, and demoing them, and seeing what works.
Absolutely, I think people kind of get knocked a little bit at times for you should just buy a set and stick to it. Says who? People enjoy it. If that's what you like to do. Some people like to collect model planes or whatever it may be.
It's a hobby.
You like to try golf clubs and see if there's something in there that's going to give you something extra in your game, and you just enjoy the process.
Right, absolutely. Realistic enough is the performance of me. But when you see something new and shiny out, and you want to see if the hype lives up to it, and maybe find that magic one that works a little bit better. There's always something about your current setup. You think, well, maybe this next one will have that or whatever. So there's so many good equipment out there, so much good equipment out there right now. It's tough to pick bad equipment, but just maybe finding what's right for you, especially as you get into the shafts and everything. That's the one area that I probably not as experienced in.
Right, interesting. Okay, good stuff. And when you say you're in the industry, so do you work at a golf club?
I do. I work at a 36-hole golf course in Maryland as tournament sales director, so I'm not the head pro or anything, as will be evidence when you see my swing. So I sell the corporate outings, charity outings, and everything, and as a result, we sell a lot of equipment to those outings for everything. So in constant contact with the reps are in through everything. So it's awesome. I get to talk golf every day and sell golf. So I sold life insurance 30 years ago. This is much better.
Yes, I can imagine.
Absolutely. Being involved in your hobby and passion is always a better way to go.
I've only been doing it for about 3 years now. And I heard that all along, and as I was telling Matt earlier, that I've tried several years ago, and the opportunities just weren't right at the right time, but been doing it about 3 years now and love it.
Great.
Good. So we've got Rob for the full bag here, and we're going to break this up.
Yeah, we're going to do a few sessions. Yeah. I know you want to look at your driver as well.
Yes.
And then we may hopefully be able to look at, we're kind of thinking wedges, but let's see how this goes and see. We basically want to give you the best, the best experience before you head back home and get the score down as much as we can.
Definitely. So speaking of the score, what's the current handicap?
It's a 19.
Good.
It's up a couple strokes. Ended last year at 17, and we're again talking about weather all over this East Coast. Haven't played a lot this year.
Early season form, isn't it?
Rain and cold. It's my course is a tough course, my home course. So usually when I travel away from it, I tend to play a little bit better than I do at home.
That's quite unusual. Normally people do the opposite.
That's one advantage. It's a very tough course. So it's nice to get away sometimes. But right around that, shoot mid-90s most of the time.
Mid-90s. Very cool.
Perfect.
Right, so we've got you started. We've kind of got an iron, your iron, set up for you with the dots for the GC quad. Let's talk a little bit about the setup of these. We've done the blueprinting. So, like you mentioned, they're an inch over length. Obviously, you're taller. How tall are you?
6'4".
6'4". Okay. So, inch over length. Just trying to kind of obviously get in a comfortable posture. Trying to get strike consistent. All those sorts of things. You've made a little lie angle adjustment as well and loft.
Yeah, playing them upright even more than I used to. For years and years I was playing, and based on static fittings, which I've heard you talk about in the past, which obviously aren't good. I was playing an inch over and two up for years and years.
Okay.
So I've stuck with the inch over here, but I went 3 degrees up.
Yeah.
I thought.
Until we
it
measured
was a little bit more.
Until we measured it, yeah.
You know, and trying to get rid of my natural flight is a fade, you know, with a little bit of a tail at the end, and trying to minimize that or straighten that out, you know, with the more upright.
Sure.
And then went an extra degree stronger because, you know, more length. Who doesn't, you know?
Yeah, more
yards. Try to get a few more yards out of the irons, you know. So.
Yeah. Good. In terms of the research you've done in the shafts, you've got the Recoil 760 ES.
Right. Yeah.
So what did you did you do a little bit of homework on that one before you got
to that?
A little bit.
I played it in a previous set about 3 years ago in some of the Callaways, and was hitting those pretty well. And again, I've lost some swing speed since then, and you know, and everything due to injuries and aging and such. So, but it did well in those. So I had been playing some Modus 105s and some KBS Tour 90s, you know, and those did well for me as well.
Sure.
But I thought, well, let me try going back to graphite. Hadn't done that in several years.
Nice.
So.
Okay, and you've been pretty comfortable with them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, definitely the weight-wise, I feel comfortable. I'm not, you know, I haven't really gotten any numbers with them since I've had them.
Right. Okay. So you've not done any sort of further tests now?
No.
Okay.
I just hit them outside at a demo day without any launch monitor numbers, and you know, they seem to feel pretty good. So, so it'll be interesting to see how they do.
Yeah.
Well, you may already know this, just having kind of obviously done some research on it. So, Recoil 760 ES, 70 gram shaft.
70 grams.
70 grams. A little higher torque, 4.1 degrees of torque is the kind of standard baseline. So, you know, the Recoil came in. Actually, we got it several years back. We had the prototype series, the 95s, the 110s, and the 125s. And the Recoil, certainly in the prototype version, which it originally came to us in, they were designed to really help the golfers who were struggling with swing weight on graphite shafts. So they were
making the head too heavy.
They were much heavier down to the tip section, whereas there was some of the other shafts out in the market were a little bit too butt heavy. So the swing weight would be a bit of an issue.
Okay.
So that was where kind of Recoil, when it first came out, kind of designed a little bit more along the dynamic gold profile of being a little bit more tip stiff, and then kind of getting a little softer as it went up.
Right.
Give me a rough. There's one thing I saw spec. I haven't actually mentioned this to you yet. There was one thing that stood out when I blueprinted your set. How's it been feeling when you've been swinging them, Rob, in terms of, you know, weight-wise and heft and all that sort of stuff?
It feels a little lighter compared to what I've, you know, swung with other ones, which I think naturally with the shaft is. You know, so it doesn't feel like I'm really maximizing it as much, but you know, it's just not so light that I feel like I'm losing control. You know, which, you know, sometimes with the driver shaft, I guess you can get that feeling, but not so much with this. But it's, you know, it feels lighter than what I'm used to.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's a mid-size New Decade multi-compound you've got on there, isn't it?
Right. I've been playing that on pretty much all my own.
You've got that one on there, so a little bit heavier grip, but the swing weight, very surprisingly to me, came out at C8.
Oh, that's light then, right?
Very light for an inch over length golf club.
Yeah.
So be very curious to see how we go if we sort of address that issue in terms of awareness of where the head is, whether that changes your ability to kind of, you know, maneuver the ball flight and that type of thing.
We've seen a lot of cases of swing weights being off. Just that change alone has made some massive performance differences for a few players.
Yeah. Interesting.
Let's see if
let's take a look at it.
Okay.
So let's see 5 or 6 shots with yours, Rob. Okay, so exactly as you described it, literally exactly as you described it, there was a bit of an interesting progression as you kind of went on, Rob, with the swing started out fairly neutral, and as you saw more of the ball going right, you pulled more to the left with your swing. So, you know, as you were reacting to certain shots, your swing was actually changing a little bit, which was really interesting for me to see. Club head speed wise, if we start just on the left side of the page, 76.7 average club head speed, fine. Very shallow in your angle of attack, so not much of a divot taker.
Yeah, it used to be very steep.
Is
and
that
I don't
right?
know, as you know, I've aged and lost a little bit of turning. I think I've gotten flatter.
Shallowed that out a little bit. Interesting. Okay. The club path being a little out to in and the open face in relation to that is obviously the thing that's creating the issue here. So that's what's given us the miss out to the right. I think all in all, you know, it's going to be about obviously face angle.
Yes, face angle.
For Rob, that's the biggest challenge here is going to be giving you something that you feel that you can shut it down a little bit easier. I can completely see why you went with something like a P790 because, you know, they look good and there's a bit more distance, and when you're a bit across it and you kind of glance the blow, you lose a little bit of distance. Right. So that will definitely give you a little bit more ball speed. One attribute that P790 doesn't have though is it doesn't have much offset. And it also, you know, is a fairly narrow club from front to back. So two things that contribute towards face rotation. So you've tackled the length and the lie angle sort of deal, but in terms of the offset characteristics, I would like to probably look at something along those lines for you today. I think that could really help us with squaring that club face up.
Good.
Interesting. Okay. So you want to look at giving him something that enables him to work on his swing, you know, trying to neutralize the path, but allows that shape to happen easier.
I think what I would hope to see as we go on here, as we start to produce a more closed club face, Rob will feel less strain on his golf swing, but having to pull across it, because we always will try to go in the opposite direction than where the ball is traveling.
For sure.
Whether that's, you know, the ball's going right, we'll swing more left thinking that that's going to be the thing that brings the ball back to the left, when in actual fact it's the thing that creates the glance and blow that creates the curvature. So
then occasionally I'll get it where it squares and it goes way left there.
And you hit one of those, you kind of went right, left, right, and you know, and it's kind of,
it happens
goes
on the course,
like that. So,
and you had talked about, Rob, you're working on your swing, trying to get it a little bit more.
I just took a lesson 3 or 4 weeks ago, and that was the one thing we talked. You know, everything else he said can come later, but the swing, you know, two things really: the swing path coming, you know, more inside, and then reducing the tendency to lift. You know, the early extension,
the stand up.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
So those two things, you know, I'm working on, but it's a long process.
Trying to kind of old habits die hard, as they say. Trying to get rid of those old habits is really difficult, you know, and it takes some time. But like I said, I think this is where equipment, the role that we get asked this all the time, isn't it? You know, if I'm working on my swing, is that the time to change my clubs, and is that time to look at equipment? Well, if it can speed up the process of helping you know, your swing evolve, absolutely.
You're complementing what he's working on. You're not fighting what he's got now.
We're working with coaches. We're not working against coaches.
Absolutely.
We're trying to achieve the same goal, and that's to help the golfer. Okay, good stuff. Right, let's get some stuff put together and see if we can make some changes.
Let's do it.
Okay, Rob. So made a couple little changes. We're going to try first the G700. We're going to stick to a graphite shaft. Going to go a fraction heavier. I want to try and get the weight of the club up for you a little bit. You're what I would consider to be a plane changer. So you kind of, the plane that the club goes back in is not the plane that the club stays on. Right? So, you know, and we see a lot of plane changers. So weight is one of the biggest things that really can help someone who is struggling with the awareness that their club is moving too much over plane or over the top, or however you want to kind of describe it. Weight can play a big role in that. So I wasn't really surprised to hear you say you've done well with shafts like KBS 90, which is a 100-gram shaft, Modus 105, and that type of thing. So, you know, that's the role weight will play. So let's give this a little test. Now, this is a 7-iron that we're going to be testing. So some of our irons are 7s, more the game improvement ones, and some are 6s if they're more towards the kind of mid cavities, that type of thing.
And we'll indicate before each one whether it's a 7 or a 6.
Okay, Rob, few little changes there, and not only to the clubs, we made a couple of little tinkers with your swing as well. We tweaked a couple of things, and we could see a couple of things we thought we could really help with. Your path was getting a little bit out 10, and you said you'd been working on that. That's been a work in progress for you.
It has been, just with one lesson and then a little bit of work on my own, but a little bit of work we did here with what you showed me. Took a little bit of adjustment, but once I did those last few ones, I really became more natural as far as making sure the wrist was set.
It was really nice to hear the difference with the strike quality. It was really getting very good.
Felt worlds of difference.
Did it really? Good.
Yeah. I could feel almost the compression, as you'd say.
I know.
Sure.
Feel that clean contact, don't you? So, if we go to that club delivery page, maybe we will talk a little bit to the differences in the club path.
Let's start with that.
Yeah. Rob was coming about, on average, about 6 degrees from out to in. We talked a little bit about sort of face angle and kind of the relationship the face was having by being open was causing the path to get a little bit across.
Yep.
So, by manipulating the face, we felt like we could get the club to travel a little more in to out. And it was exactly what happened. So we were able to get the club traveling 1.6 from in to out. Your club head speed spiked up a little bit by about 2.5 miles an hour. We do see that, Rob, when we get the club, when the club is able to rotate. Your club head speed will spike a little bit.
Right.
So kind of when you're coming across from 6 degrees or so, it's kind of like playing golf with the handbrake on. So because the club face has to kind of hang on and stay to the right of where the club is traveling, and it's a kind of unnatural thing. And no wonder you've been lifting the handle. So the club coming left, you have to pull the handle up in order to kind of try and keep the club face at the target. So I think by getting that club a little bit more into out, that'll be a much more natural swing for you to have.
Yeah.
I
mean, my thought on the whole thing is, obviously, there's a perception that you go for a fitting, and you're there to buy clubs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect example, and why I think this went so well, Rob, is that you came in to play better golf, and you may not actually have to make a massive change to your equipment.
Yeah.
Even if he left with nothing.
Sure.
He didn't know how out in his path was. You made him aware of it.
Yeah.
And then you gave him a little bit of a drill that helped him get more neutral, which you were able to achieve. So a good fitting isn't necessarily just, here's a club that works better than what you have and it changes. It's awareness of what your swing is actually doing. And then from there, giving someone good advice that Rob can take to his pro, he can take to the range. And we clearly, with the last few shots, we can see he's capable of neutralizing the path. Because otherwise you're kind of saying, okay, I can give you a club. And I think that's how the first few tests went with the PXGs and the Epics that we tried. The results were just not good enough to warrant buying new clubs. Like, they weren't enough of a change.
No, not even close. I mean, the first few that we tried, you were probably yourself Rob, going, this isn't any better.
No, exactly.
This isn't it, and rightly so.
Maybe a little bit more distance, but not much. Still a big right miss.
We thought maybe G700 started a bit more online, but it still had quite a lot of leak to it. At that point, you actually become less of the sort of club fitter, and you become a hair more of an instructor.
Yes.
You start to kind of dive into that. The people who watch the channel regularly hear us talking about the 75-25, and at times we have to kind of intervene a little bit and go, you're not really going to get the most out of any club with that swing. We need to make a little change, and you were able to do it, which is testament to you. Now, as soon as I got you to make that change, I knew we actually had to change the club as well. So there was so many things with your own setup, the loft being down at 25.75 on the 6-iron, which we know is strong, the lie angle being as upright as it is, those were no longer going to be beneficial, because we would just see the ball kind of fall out the sky. Because with the face rotating, you're losing loft. So that dynamic loft becomes so low.
We know those P790s are, if not the lowest spin, they must be one of the lowest spin. On that ball data, the only reason he got 4,500 is because of how open the face was.
Correct.
So if
that's the point.
We take that same swing change, hit him again, which people will ask, and it's fair, but you hit those again, he's probably going to spin them 2,800 at most. And then that's not a usable shot, not a usable iron shot.
So I mean, that's the one thing with Rob. We probably would be well worthwhile bending some loft onto yours and seeing if that's something where the P790s are kind of competitive. The Strixon 565s, and people think we have a kind of love affair with Strixon on this channel. We always talk about them, but I mean, why wouldn't you when they get results like that and
Yeah.
they perform so well?
We were talking sole width off camera a little bit. So, and Rob, you even identified that the thinner sole width for you, you just felt cleaner contact and a better
so
strike.
much crisper and cleaner,
Yeah.
and less chunkier at times. It just,
And
as
that's
I've heard Ian say before, I mean,
Yeah.
I've noticed that before I even saw the channel, as we talked about some other irons I've hit in the past.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a situation where the P790s, again, you could add the loft, but the sole design of that 565 seems to just suit him better and give him a little bit better contact.
Exactly. So as we know we should do at this point, we're going to go back and hit yours.
Okay.
Because we've got a slightly different swing going on. We've got a slightly different spec. We've added more loft. So we know we're hitting it higher in a much, much nicer trajectory. I mean, the height you're hitting it now it's really nice.
It is nice.
Yeah, you're hitting it much, much better. So let's go back, make those adjustments to yours, and let's be fair to the P790s.
Sure.
And let's give them a try as well.
Okay.
Okay, Rob, great stuff. So we tried another little selection of shots with yours with the adjusted loft, but we struggled with it.
Yeah.
And that was with the improved. So it's still the same swing. We're still coming from the inside. You were still doing such a good job from that perspective. Relative to the two Strixons that we hit really well, coming 1.6 degrees, 1 degree, and then 1.4 from the inside. We just couldn't get the strike quality as good with the P790s.
Not as consistent, not as clean.
Yeah, really could see that club getting stuck in the turf a little bit. And you talked a little bit earlier about you've thought a lot about the way the club works in the turf for years, and then you heard us talking about it in the channel and kind of reaffirmed that sort of thought process. It's exactly what we saw there.
Yeah.
So we just weren't able to get enough club on the ball.
It seemed to be a consistency thing. So one of the shots that you just hit was actually quite good, and comparable to a good one with the 565s.
Yeah.
But the other ones, exactly, it was just one, and so the other ones got a little extra turf and got stuck, and I think your consistency would definitely suffer with those.
Yeah. So when it comes to irons, it's a big part of it is how consistently you can strike it will always dictate how consistently you can hit it your target number. With the P790s few, my fear would be that they would be all of a sudden very long and all of a sudden very short, and there'd be a big space between how far they would go from a distance perspective, even with that nice new swing, the new improved Rob swing. So that would be my biggest fear with the P790s, a little too jumpy on the good ones and a little too penal on the bad ones.
Yeah, because if you look at the distance dispersion,
it's interesting.
It's very consistent in terms of how far you actually hit those 565s.
Right.
So maybe the worst you could say is you'd be a little past the pin on your your long one, in front of the green on your worst one. Whereas the other one was 30 yards short and 20 yards
over
long.
the back. And,
So your ability to hit greens, especially as you want to drop your handicap, hitting the green or being on the fringe is everything.
Yep.
I mean, you'll drop strokes so quickly that way.
How did the weight feel going back to yours? Was it noticeable that yours was lighter than the other ones? Obviously,
yeah, definitely.
It was.
Yeah.
See, to me, I was pretty conscious that might be the factor.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's not that much sole width difference now. The V sole on the Strixon, I definitely think is helping, but the weight of the club, I think, to be honest, it was changing your angle of attack.
It was,
I was kind of watching as we went along there, so the angle of attack was definitely shallower with the.
It is very interesting.
With the TaylorMade being lighter, so for me, I kind of got the sense that Rob was throwing it a little bit with that one, and kind of losing a little bit of the forward shaft lean, and that's what was kind of creating a little bit of the change in dynamics.
And what kind of a swing weight do you think we had on the 765? Because you were C8 with Rob's.
C8 with Rob's, and we were we were up around D3 with the Strixons.
So I mean, even if it was D2 or D4, it's a huge change. It's a much heavier swing weight for him to swing, and
much more awareness.
Clearly more comfortable with it and hitting better shots.
Yeah. Rob, that was good.
It was good. Yeah.
You know, we'll kind of let the viewers into something that we've been talking about. You actually used to own the Strixon irons, didn't you?
I did.
You had them before.
I had them. Purchased them a year or so ago and was playing well with them, and then I was selected to test another model by the forum, and so I was committed to playing those at the end of the year.
Right.
And then we went into winter and everything. So
and that's hilarious. Yeah. We didn't know that when we handed it to you.
You did not. You did not know that until I told you that.
Yeah, and then you mentioned, I actually used to hit these very well, and you liked them a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It was a steel shaft. I had the Modus 105.
105s, which is the stock shaft that comes in that one. Yeah. Nice shaft. Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised that I hit them pretty well.
Yeah. Right. It's a great iron, and you had a combo set. You had 565s and 765s.
In the 8-9 pitch.
That's right, in the 8-9 pitch, and a lot of people go, Rob's 19 handicap. Maybe you shouldn't do that.
Nonsense.
No, I mean, I had a lot of people surprised when they saw that. I'd get the eyes rolled when they'd see them in my bag or whatever, and then I was actually hitting them very well. Again with that turf interaction and everything.
That's it.
It's so important. That's one of the most important things we've learned from these iron fits. Turf interaction is everything.
It's important. Rob, that was really, really good. Few little technical changes to the clubs, a couple little technical changes to the swing, but ultimately the result is the right one. Gets you much more consistent, gets your irons flying much more online, and you're definitely not going to be a 19 for long with that.
No, definitely not.
For sure.
So we'll be back soon with the driver. We're doing driver next.
Yeah, I'll
excellent.
Be ready to go for that.
Sounds good. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed this segment with Rob as much as we did, and we'll be back again soon with the driver.